guys, so here we are a couple hours later. Kind of got caught up working on the car again. My dad was giving me a hand as much as he could before he had to go inside and lay down and get some rest before he goes into work tonight. So he gave me a hand getting the headers on, and then after that he had to go inside. So we pretty much got to the point to where the K member was ready to go back in, but since I was just on my own, I ended up calling my neighbor Bob, who lives pretty much next door to me. He runs Bodacious Racing, so you guys go check that out. But he came over here for about 15 minutes. We got the K member slapped back in. So next I just have to do is get my steering shaft reconnected. I got to figure out where these two O2 sensors plug into. I need to hook my lines back up to the front of the power steering rack. And outside of that, guys, I think I got 2 little heat shields to put on, and that's it. So once we reattach our brakes, or our whole brake assembly back to the strut, I'll be able to lower the car down. And I think tonight, I'll be able to get started pulling the intake off the top of the motor and tearing that part down to start making our way to the oil pump gears and the Whipple install. All right, so we got the whole front end put together outside of the steering shaft. And there's one sensor, I'm assuming it's an O2 sensor that I'm struggling to find right now. I'm thinking it's kind of up top on the transmission, which is kind of a pain to get to. But got the struts reattached, brake calipers are on there. Outside of that, I've just been buttoning little things up. I'm getting ready to watch actually a video on LMR on how to pull the intake manifold off. I just want to make sure I'm not gonna run into anything unexpected with that. Pretty much at a stopping point for the night. As you can see, we got the intake off. So I just got done trying to vacuum and clean out the cylinders. Still need to do a better job and still see stuff in there. But got that part done. Gonna put some rags in there, get all that stuff cleaned. But yeah, so I couldn't finish up the steering rack because they say it might be a little easier if you have somebody inside the car pushing down on the steering wheel. Because it was like that close to going into the hole to get that lined up. And then I have one sensor on top that I can't find. So I'm hoping, since now I got room behind where the intake was, I can reach down there and possibly feel where that, I think, is the last O2 sensor goes. And I got to get the 2 bolts for the transmission, which obviously now I can get to them, so that's going to be easy. But the game plan for tomorrow is to come out here and start pulling all the accessory drive stuff off. So also we got to pull the line off here for the coolant so we can put our thermostat in there. I'm opting to go ahead and go with the 170-degree thermostat. The factory one should be 180-degree, just to try to help keep this thing cool. But outside of that, guys, there's been a ton of wrenching and a ton of progress. This is all in. You figure we didn't even really get started on this. Friday night, we kind of hit some PB blasts on some of the exhaust bolts, but we really didn't get started on it until Saturday. And here we are on Tuesday, and we already got the new clutch in, short shifters in, dry shaft safety loop, dry shaft, headers are on, X-pipes on. The whole exhaust is connected. Hey guys, so here we are, I guess officially on day 4. Not gonna lie to you guys, I'm pretty wiped out. So it's just pure will keeping me going right now. But my dad came out here, he gave me a hand, so we did get the steering shaft at least in the hole. We can't get the bolt run through there because the way the steering wheel is tilted right now, it's not allowing us enough room to get the bolt in. So I'm gonna save that probably for the very last thing I do. Once we get the Whipple and all that stuff installed on this, we will put the car back up in the air and get to that bolt in there. But it's at least connected for now. As you guys can see, I started on the tear down of the front timing cover. So we got the 2 tensioners off, the alternators off. We've gotten some of the coolant hoses off. I completely spaced that. Last night when I just pulled the intake off, I was thinking that I could just leave the valve covers on, but I forgot they have to come off during this process anyways. So, gotta Ford like to use these little zip ties and push them into everything, so those are kind of a pain to get out. So gotta go through there, get all the wiring harnesses out the way. And as you can see, our TIG Vision's lightweight crash bar came in, so that should allow us enough room to run the Titanic heat exchanger we picked up. So figured I'd give you guys an update. It's just me out here. Like I said, my dad already went to go lay down for the night so he can get up and get to work in a couple hours. So I think next thing for me is the water pump, and then I have to try to get I think after the water pump, try to get the crank off. A little bit more time. We got the valve covers off on both sides. Everything looks good. I've been trying to vacuum and get debris out the way as I go. But now I think I am finally on the last step, which is to get the bolt out the harmonic balancer and then pull that balancer off. So hopefully the little tool I have can do that, because if not, I might have to order one. So I went to the parts store and got one of their little loaners. So we'll see. If just making sure I didn't miss anything, and it doesn't appear so. So it looks like as soon as I get that off, I can just go around the timing cover and hit all the bolts all the way around there, and then hopefully pop that timing cover off. We'll move the chains out the way, and then we can get to the oil pump. Hey, so when I ran to O'Reilly's, they didn't have an actual Ford tool, but the one for Chrysler seemed to be working pretty well. You can already see that big gap I got in between there. So I'm just slowly taking my time, making sure it was gonna work. And it appears it is. If I could stay on the end of the thing. So slowly working its way off, but just a heads up for you guys, if you go to O'Reilly specifically, the one for Chrysler will work. That's what the Chrysler tool looks like, and it looked like it had just enough lips to get on the little edges here to pop that balancer off. So here we are, guys. Get that tool out of there. Got that all off. So next is the timing cover, guys. Here we are, guys. Finally got the timing cover off. It wasn't too bad, actually. From the time my dad went in to the time he woke up back from his nap to head to work, maybe an hour and 20-ish minutes, and I already was 4 bolts away, these ones down at the bottom, away from having the timing cover off. So I took a break to go inside, eat, and then go refill the propane tanks. We got the timing cover laid over here. We got all the bolts. I took a small video for myself just pointing out which bolts went where. Gaskets look good. We got the intake and the valve covers over here. I also labeled where the coil packs went, which I don't think is a big deal, but I'm just gonna keep them the same cylinder. So now, so to do this whole thing, I watched the VMP video on disassembling the front timing cover. Even though it was for a Gen 2 Mustang, all the components came off the same. Now I'm watching a video on YouTube from HPR on how to disassemble the oil pump gears, because he did a specific video on the Gen 1 motors, which for the timing components on the Boss Mustang, you go off the Gen 1. So I believe I gotta, once I tighten down the crank bolt, I gotta twist this around until I believe this R has to get top dead center. This top side comes apart first once that happens, and then once you get this side disassembled, I believe you got to advance it like 90 degrees, and then you can pull the driver's side off. So I'm going to verify that stuff by watching his video when I do it. If my phone's not too dirty, let's see. So you guys can see right there, Gen 1 11 through 14 Coyote oil pump gears, and it's HPR. So I'm watching him do it. You guys can check out his channel, very informative. Timing covers off, so now we are to the step of removing the chains. So since we got our keyway to 12 o'clock, HPR, he was saying that your R on this side, on this cam phaser should be up, so it is. So next I believe we do the tensioners, and we pull this side apart, and then we'll rotate the keyway and back to where it's about 9 o'clock, and then we can remove the driver's side. So we can get that stuff knocked out, and then I'm just kind of following with him step by step. So we got the oil pump off. Just to let you know, if you guys haven't done this bowl right here for the oil pickup tube is an absolute pain to get to. Pretty much have to have some sort of 10mm wrench like this that is bent, if you guys can see that. to try to get to it, and still I probably had an hour into just trying to get to that one bolt. So now since we did that, I was trying to read through the directions. It looks like you put these in with the lettering facing up is what the thing says. So I'm assuming this side, when you pull it apart, just drop that in like that. So I'll just make sure there's no debris or anything in there. I need to try to clean some of that oil out and put some new oil in there for these gears. Hey guys, so I had about an hour and about an hour last night trying to get that back bolt out and got everything reassembled, and now trying to get it back in as a fight. So what I just did was I had these needle nose on the top of the bolt, kind of by the head, but at a steep angle to get that in place. And while I was holding the bolt in the hole with a pair of needle nose, I took a 10 wrench like this one, or like this one that I showed you guys last night that's bent, and just try to get it started. And I think it's barely in there right now, but it started, so hopefully carefully I can just keep tightening it and working it in. But guys, this one's an absolute pain, especially if you're doing it in the car and you can't really drop the oil pan. This last bolt is awful.
What do we use these for? What are these used for? These socket, these what we buying for?
I don't know, we bought the metric and standard set of both.
But we bought them for some specific reason.
I don't remember. So guys, that small wrench my dad's using now, we had to use the needle nose to get it started, and he kind of jams his fingers in there to kind of get it in there more. But these are the wrenches, if you guys can see that all right. So he grabbed a 10 millimeter, I believe, out of this pack, and bent it at an angle to where we can get in there. So if you guys go to do these oil pump gears on your own, that seems to be the key, is that small little wrench bent at what, about 45 maybe? There, you guys can see the angle. And then it's just slow going, but got it started. So those are the wrenches. And then what showed up today is our new 132 millimeter throttle body. I also got the clip for the transmission for the little braided line you see sticking up over there by the strut tower. That goes to the transmission. I broke the little plastic tab that goes on that, so that showed up today. We got our new pulley ordered because Whipple sent out a 4.0 pulley for this, and I went ahead and bought a new one. The new one is a 3.25. We got the belt on order, and I think that's about it for now. So once we get this last bolt in for this oil pump, everything can go back together. I did buy new Boss tensioners, and LMR sent a new guide for each side as well, so we'll slap those on there too. This car only has 25,000 miles on it, so I didn't buy any new chains or anything. I'm just going to use the ones that were on there. That should be fine. And then we can slap the front timing cover back on, and then work on getting the rest of the accessories back on the vehicle. I still got to open up the thermostat housing right here and put our new thermostat in there, which, since this is completely removed now, it is just these two bolts, and then the thermostat comes out. Probably give the valve covers a quick rinse, get those cleaned up, and then this Power by Ford coil cover, we won't be using those. I have something special instead. So guys, my dad's over here gapping all the spark plugs. Whipple calls for 28,000. So we just figured it's easier to go ahead and do the spark plugs on this now while everything's apart. And then that reminded me, I still need to vacuum some of the dust and dirt out of there, but went ahead, got our new 170 degree thermostat in. So the old one in this box, I ordered this from a Beefcake actually. There you guys can kind of see right there. That's pretty easy. Took the two bolts out, so the housing just goes back on. Orientation's correct right there. So we'll slap this back together, and then this part's ready to go. And with that, guys, the timing chains, tensioners, everything's back together. Oil pump gears are installed. So next is I got to get the crank bolt out of there and get the cover ready. All right, guys, so heads up, once you get the timing chains with the marker set up, we spun the engine around by hand quite a few times. Didn't feel nothing binding up, but just kind of as a FYI, if some of y'all may know this, but I didn't. The only time your little colored links will line up with the marks on the cam phasers is when you go to time it up initially. Once you rotate it, they don't line up again. So that should be correct. Timing cover's back on there now. Might try to wipe a few things down, but next we're going to go ahead and put the valve covers on there just so I don't have to worry about nothing falling down in there. Valve covers will go on. Then we got the water pump, crank pulley, alternator, and that is pretty much it. We have some of our hoses we could throw on there. Well, we have idler pulleys, but some of that stuff I need to look up and see how much will actually go on because, guys, we are getting so close to setting this Whipple on top. So that's the next step.